Welcome in to another March to Matchday as Atlanta United prepares to face NYCFC at Yankee Stadium on Saturday night. You can listen on 92.9 The Game, the Odyssey app, the Atlanta United app. Coverage will start at 7 p.m. with the Five Stripes countdown. Kickoff at 7:39, and the full-time report, an abbreviated version, will follow the final whistle. Mike Conti and myself, Jason Longshore, will be on the call for you from the Big Apple. Now, last week, Atlanta United made a little bit of history. They beat the New York Red Bulls for the first time in the regular season. This week, they have an opportunity to go to Yankee Stadium and win for the first time in regular season play. Now, something that's similar between the two is there have been wins against these teams in the respective places that we're talking about in playoff action. In 2018, Atlanta United defeated the Red Bulls in the first leg of the Eastern Conference Finals at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. That was their only win in all competitions against the Red Bulls before last week. Atlanta United has won at Yankee Stadium before. It was the first leg of the Eastern Conference semifinal at Yankee Stadium in 2018. A 1-0 win. Eric Remedi, a little bit of Shimetti action. He got the goal, very unexpected. There was a goal that was called back. Atlanta United did the deed and handled their business and got the win. Regular season play, they have not been able to get a win at Yankee Stadium. We'll come back to Yankee Stadium. I know it's a huge talking point whenever Atlanta United goes up to New York to play in the friendly confines, at least for the Pigeons anyway, at Yankee Stadium. But let's get caught up on everything in the Atlanta United world. One other piece of news before we jump into some of the clips today. Atlanta United was drawn in the third round of the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup yesterday. They will face Memphis 901 FC, led by our old friend Stephen Glass. This is his first year in Memphis. Glassy has a talented team with quite a few familiar faces. Philip Goodrum has been one of their leading scorers over the past year, and Laurent Kisiadou, both Atlanta United two players in the past. Big focal points there. Luis Fernando as well with Memphis. So this is a team that will have a little extra motivation coming back to Atlanta to face Atlanta United in the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup third round. The game will be played in Kennesaw. The ticket pre-sale for fans actually starts today, Friday, April 7th. And the match will be played on Wednesday, April 26th. Kickoff time will be announced at a later date, probably 7 or 7:30. Stay tuned and stay tuned for broadcast plans as well. All right, let's go backwards to the media room at Mercedes-Benz Stadium after Atlanta United defeated the New York Red Bulls last weekend. Gonzalo Pineda opened his media availability just answering a question about the win. This is what Gonzalo Pineda had to say last Saturday night.
Yes, back to who we are. I think back to who we are. That was the theme of the week, and the players show who they are today. A team that wants to play always, that shows a lot of, there's another word, but bravery to play under pressure, under a lot of pressure. I just told them 1-0, and I have my goalkeeper dribbling a forward inside the 6-yard box. I don't know if something I like all the time, but the message is very good. Is we want to play, and but also in the moments we needed to defend, we defend. In the moments we needed to win the duels, I think we won most of those. So very happy for a very good performance, and obviously for first time beating New York Red Bulls in history in the regular season.
I thought that was important to kind of set the tone for this edition of March to Match Day. Let's dig into a couple of the clips. First off, on Tuesday, Juano Parata and Machop Chol spoke to the media. And here's a couple of answers from them. Parata, I asked him about the tackle that he made against Red Bulls that was vital in that match and just what kind of triggers he looks for to go to ground in those tackling situations. And Machop Chol, we talked a little bit about him playing the number 9 in preseason and some of the differences between playing as the 9 or playing out on the wing. Here is Juano Parata, followed by Machop Chol.
Well, I think the tackle or going to the ground is the last thing that I have in mind as a defender. Um, yeah, I try to invite him to the outside, and then when he tried to shoot, I got to the ground, and unfortunately that was like a goal for me.
It was pretty fun. Yeah, I was a little bit familiar with the position since I played 9 for a season at Wake, so it wasn't too hard to adjust. But I felt like with my skill set, I was able to bring some of the qualities that Gonzalo asked for. So.
What's the biggest difference in mentality when you're the 9 versus playing on the wing?
I would say on the wing is just being brave, being confident to be able to take your guy on 1v1, and you lose the ball, it's okay. The next person will come and you guys can win it back. But yeah, I feel like for me at the 9 is a different role. I'm just making runs, being able to press and put in effort to be able to help the team, and then also to create space for guys like Thiago and Luis to operate in.
Let's jump ahead to Thursday in Atlanta United's training week, and Miles Robinson and Gonzalo Pineda spoke to the media. Let's start with Miles Robinson. I had a question for him about Yankee Stadium and maybe a little bit different way of talking about the facility. We always talk about what happens at Yankee Stadium on the ball because of the narrow confines on the pitch. I asked Miles about the differences for him in playing center back at Yankee Stadium and what the facility and what the spacing does to him defensively. Here's Miles Robinson.
Yeah, it's definitely different. The team in New York, I mean, they love to play quick, but also direct, and they got really technical players that can get out of tight situations. And the fact that the field's so thin, they know how to manage themselves in that space very well. But yeah, it's just about staying completely focused throughout the 90 minutes defensively, and understanding where their 10's at, what runners are coming from where, and stuff like this.
All right, time to catch up with El Profe, Gonzalo Pineda. Couple of questions for him. First, about New York City and Yankee Stadium and what it does to his mindset, and also talking about the opponent. But the second one was a really interesting one. Gonzalo was asked about using video and how the club uses video to prepare for matches, but to also review matches. And Gonzalo gave a really detailed answer on that. Here's Gonzalo Pineda back to back talking about NYC and Yankee Stadium and how he and his coaching staff use video to improve the squad.
Yeah, it's very good. I mean, records and all that, that's the less important thing to me. For me, it's the consistency in the performances. And last week was about coming back to who we are. This year is to remain there and stay there and stick to that. Don't have ups and downs throughout the season, having a very good standard. And rather than playing at 10 and then a 5 and then an 8 and then a 7, I prefer always be 7.5 all the time, and from there a couple times 8, and aiming for always 8.5, but more established caliber every week. So that's for me consistency. That's what we aim. So for me, it's after a very good game, how we respond after that, and making sure that now in a different environment like New York City, the stadium, the grass, the dimensions, all that, the caliber, because normally when we talk about New York City playing away, we always talk about the field. It's also about the opponent. It's a very good opponent. It's quality opponent. It's a team that plays very good football. So it's all of that, how we can have a good result. We do 3 times of film. The normal film we do for analyzing our last game, that I do. I'm in charge of that post-match analysis through video. With Jose always. Jose supervises everything, right? But I'm the one delivering that to the team. Then we have the IDPs, the individual development plans, where Eugenio, my assistant, is going to the players, and here and there, maybe not every week because at times we overload the players, but little details on a summary of clips that can help that player. And then there the unit work, where at times Diego takes the back 4, plus maybe a holding center mid. We talk about the shift overs, defending the box, defending crosses, defending cutbacks, how we man mark in certain situations, in other words, on also how we do that as a unit. So we have those 3 tools in terms of field. They also have these apps that they can get on their phone, all their touches, so that's more individual and that's on their own. They can see all the information, the opponent analysis, so we do a lot on that. The key for me is at times too much is not the solution. Is you have to measure when maybe you let them rest for 3 weeks on individual film and when you overload them with 3 times a week. So that's more the feeling of coaching, but we have the tools, which is very good.
Next up on March to Match Day, we always like to check in with the commentators on Apple TV's MLS Season Pass. This week is no exception. Tony Husband and Ross Smith will be on the call for you there. Ross is someone that we had the chance to meet back in 2018 MLS Cup. He was doing color for the Portland Timbers on TV and radio. He's now with Apple TV. Ross is one of the really good guys in the business and had a long conversation with him. You can check out the whole conversation on the Off the Woodwork podcast. But here's a clip from Ross Smith talking about the keys for Atlanta United in this match on Saturday night. Here's Ross Smith from Apple TV.
I've touched on it there with Almada. How's he going to find space through the middle? And then I think in the wide areas, I think since Wiley's gone back to left back because of Gutman with the injury, where we at there, and Wiley obviously hasn't looked as dangerous going forward because he's having to do responsibilities defensively. But it's been a disappointment because Wiley was flying down the left hand side and really giving you width and the real bit of danger off that left hand side. And so Etienne, if he's starting, he likes to come in more rather than out and out getting around the outside. And Brooks Lennon, I think that is going to be very, very key, how he gets up and down. I think he's really embraced this new position since coming to Atlanta. And I think he's probably one of the most underrated attacking fullbacks in the league. I think what he gives you going forward is really good quality. And I've been impressed with him. I wondered for a while if he was just going to start to fizzle out and if he wouldn't really find his place in the team. And I think he's really embraced it. His attitude, it seems like Jason has been spot on with the team. And I think his skill set is really coming through.
Next up on March to Match Day, we like to check in with the opponent and use whatever we can to give you a taste of their preparation for the match. Unfortunately, New York City FC has not made available their media availabilities this week. Have not seen anything from Nick Cushing or from any player speaking to the media during the week. Perhaps they do that on Friday. Here's a clip from Nick Cushing from his post-match press conference after the 1-1 draw at Gillette Stadium against New England Revolution, where NYC fell behind, and Cushing was asked about the character of his squad and his takeaways from coming back to get a result at Gillette Stadium against the New England Revolution. Here is NYCFC manager Nick Cushing.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, I said to the team, for us to finish in positive positions, which to me is the top four, and we want to improve 2-1, and I'll continue to set the bar high. We have to have every part of the game. We have to be able to dictate games with possession. We have to be able to suffer and bend, not break when we're under pressure, which will happen on the road. We have to be able to go in front and hold leads, and we have to be able to come back when we're behind. And tonight is a really good example of a team with a real togetherness, a real spirit. I think you can see tonight, I thought Telles Magno was exceptional. I thought it was a real individual performance from him in the sense of how he dictated the game and really dictated our attack. And for me, so many pleasing parts rolling into a 3-game home.
Thanks to everyone who spoke to the media this week. Tuesday in Atlanta, it was Juano Parata, Machop Chol. Thursday, it was Miles Robinson and Gonzalo Pineda. Had a chance to speak to Ross Smith from Apple TV this week. Thank you to MLS and Apple TV for making Ross available. Thanks to NYC for having the post-match video up from the New England match with manager Nick Cushing. It's just always a tough game. And I thought Gonzalo nailed it when he talked about how, it's not just because the field is difficult. It is. It's smaller. It affects you a little bit. Teams that want to open the game up, they don't have as much space to open the game up. You got to work a little bit harder to manufacture that space. That's true. That's real. But it's also a hard game because New York City's very good. and they always have been since Atlanta United came into the league. Really, since their first year in the league, New York City's been one of the most consistent teams in the Eastern Conference. Are they as good as they've been in 2023? I don't think so. Not yet. I don't think they're complete. I think they do have some issues at center back in Maxime Chanot. The pace is not where it used to be for him. That's a position that I feel like they will upgrade and really need to make that jump into one of the elite teams in the Eastern Conference. I also think they have to figure out the number 9 position. Gabe Siegel got the start last week in New England, and that allowed Tyler Magno to go back to the wing. Is that the recipe for success? Is Gabe Siegel your guy to win MLS Cup for you in the Big Apple? Man, it's a big ask for a young player who did play well and did, I think, make things work a little bit better because he's a true number 9. But that feels like a position that's kind of a must for New York City in the long run. Do they do that here in this window with the days ticking away before the first window of the year closes, or do they do it in the summer window? We'll just have to wait and see. But the Tati Castellanos replacement has not been found as of yet. What does New York City do well? I think the spine of the team is strong, and the midfield, especially with Rodriguez at the point, with James Sands, who's back from a loan from Rangers that didn't result in a purchase, and Keaton Parks. Sands, Parks, Rodriguez, that's a really good midfield trio. And Sands and Parks, especially with their size, with their strength, with their quality on the ball, just a difficult duo to play through. Thiago Almada is going to have to find space against those two. That's not easy to do. What else about New York City? Magno always kills Atlanta, it feels like. And if he's out on the wing, I think he's more effective than playing as the 9. He can be a 9. He's better as a winger. Rodriguez, I think, is getting comfortable playing as the 10, and I think he can be the 10, and I think he will be the 10. He could go wide if Richie Ledesma comes into the team as a number 10. That's also possible too. And that gets a lot of attacking firepower on with a front 3 of Ledesma, Magno, and Rodriguez. Kufre from the left back, he's going to get forward. He's going to bomb forward. That matchup gets interesting with him on the left for NYC against Brooks Lennon, against Luis Araujo. Can Atlanta get in behind him? Potentially. And that's something they're going to have to look for. I think they're going to have to look for that space against Maxime Chanot as well and try to get Yorgos Yakimakis and Luis Araujo coming inside to make it difficult for Chanot to chase them. I don't think he can keep up with them pace-wise. He's going to have help, but you want to make NYC have to collapse to protect him a little bit. You want Sands to have to drop deeper, Parks to have to drop deeper, Kufre to stay at home a little bit more, take some things away from New York City. Atlanta's got to do a lot of the things they did against the Red Bulls. They've got to be brave on the ball. They've got to play quickly. They've got to create space. They've got to manufacture space. They've got to exploit that space. That's something that's very important. That long ball over the top that opened the Red Bulls up, that's not always on at Yankee Stadium because of the size. So you're going to have to play through a little bit more. And this is a team that's comfortable doing that. This is a team that believes in that way of playing. So will they find those avenues to do it? It's not going to be easy. It's really not. And this is a place that's just so tough to play against a good opponent. If Atlanta United goes in and gets a result, they're going to be happy with that point coming out of it. Of course, the performance is going to be the ultimate decider and how happy they are. But if you get anything out of Yankee Stadium, I think just about any team in this league is happy. You take 3 points out of Yankee Stadium, regardless of how you do it, you're going to be happy because that's a very exclusive club. We're talking Studio 54 levels of exclusivity here. It just doesn't happen very often. Not many teams have gone there and won since 2017. It's very difficult. Atlanta United has to, in my opinion, find Thiago Almada in the dangerous areas in the attacking half. They're going to have to manage the moments in the game. There's going to be moments where the game gets away from them. They have to manage that better than they did against Columbus. They have to figure out how to get their bearings, how to, in a boxing match, how to hold on to the ropes to get right again, get the ship righted. They were missing some people who I think helped them do that against Columbus. They were missing Thiago Almada, who can do that with his quality. They were missing Miles Robinson, who can get you out of trouble defensively. And they were missing Yorgos Yakimakis, who gives you that presence up top and can get stuck into a tackle, as the Red Bulls found out. You're missing those elements against Columbus. I think that'll help you here because the game will get away from you at times. You can't let it get too far away from you. It's got to stay within reach, and that's always the key. We've seen it happen in the way. Maybe it's just the size of the pitch. Maybe it's just some of the chaos that creates. We've seen it happen both ways. The Red Wedding game for the New York Red Bulls going into Yankee Stadium and winning huge. That game completely got away from the Pigeons. And you think back to the NYC win over Atlanta in 2019, where that game completely got away from Atlanta early, quickly. You have to manage those moments. That's something Gonzalo Pineda has stressed this year. How does Atlanta United do that? Well, you're going to get a big test against Yankee Stadium, against the New York City FC squad, and against Yankee Stadium in some ways in this match. So, one more time, broadcast, 7 o'clock, Five Stripes Countdown. You can listen on 92.9 The Game, the Odyssey app, the Atlanta United app. You can watch on MLS Season Pass on Apple TV. You can't choose our audio option this time around. You will hear Glenn Crooks and Matty Lawrence if you do that, if you want the NYC perspective. Go for it. You can also sync us up with the Odyssey app or your radio at 92.9 The Game. We'll have the full if I could speak. We'll have the full-time report for a abbreviated edition after the match because we got to hop on a plane and get back to Atlanta. Couple of other programming notes. Sunday night on the Soccer Down Here network, soccerdownhere.net, or the app or the Spreaker app, you can listen to Atlanta United 2 and NYCFC 2. That match is going to be played at St. John's. I'll be calling it remotely. And it'll be a radio-style call on Soccer Down Here. That Sunday night starting at 7 o'clock. And then next week on the 92.9 The Game podcast network on Off the Woodwork, Atlanta Soccer Tonight will be back on Monday night, very late. You can catch that Tuesday morning if you're not a night owl or a degenerate like me. You will be able to get stoppage time there. You'll be able to get March to Match Day on Friday. Hopefully some bonus interviews along the way as Atlanta United prepares for a trip up north to Toronto FC. That's next weekend. First, it's a trip up north to New York City to face the Pigeons at Yankee Stadium. Hope you can join us Saturday night. We'll be back to wrap everything up next week and start to look ahead to a match against the Reds. Adios, everybody.